Hello there, Drew Hanish of Whiskey Lore, and time for another whiskey tasting for a Friday, and we're headed back over to Scotland. I finally got myself a bottle of Glengoyne. Maybe I was inspired by doing the interview with Springbank and their Glengyne distillery, Glengoyne. Sometimes early on I had to keep those two straight in my head. Glengoyne, actually, as we pull up our map of Scotland, comes right there's Glasgow, and then right up here is Glengoyne. And this map isn't entirely correct because the Highland line actually cuts south of there. It has it shown as being in the lowlands, but it is not a lowland distillery. It is a Highland distillery. However, it is so close to the lowlands that where you park your car across the street, you are in the lowlands, and that's where their warehouses are. So they actually distill in the highlands, but they age in the lowlands. And if I had to say this whiskey fits either character, of course the regions now are starting to diversify a lot in their flavor profiles. This is a heavier whiskey for me, and so this kind of makes me think a more muscly Highland whiskey rather than the more lighter lowland whiskeys. But as I say, those particular styles for regions are starting to scatter and become a little bit more diversified. Glengoyne means the Valley of the Wild Goose, and thus the reason we have a wild goose on the cover. I had a choice. I could buy the 10-year-old or the 12-year-old. I got to tell you, for $10 more, $60 a bottle, I decided to roll with the 12. I've been to the distillery before, and that distillery is in a beautiful, beautiful setting. It's been remarked as one of the most beautiful distilleries in Scotland. Strathisla is still going to be my favorite. It's just an amazing looking distillery, but Glengoyne definitely gives it a run for its money, especially with the nature atmosphere around it, which you really don't get a sense of when you drive up to the place. But once you get there, it's like you're kind of nestled in this very forested area. And while you're sitting there waiting for your tour to start, right behind you in this big glass window, you can see all of those trees back there in the back. And it does kind of give you that very rustic kind of a feel to it. So what makes this whiskey different from other whiskeys? Well, slow distillation is what they really promote. The fact that they use a low yielding barley called Golden Promise, which is very rare in Scotch. And a lot of distilleries ran away from using low yielding barley because it makes their costs go higher. And so the accountants basically kind of pushed them away from using these more difficult, I would say, types of barley, but barleys that have much more impact on your flavor. So seeing a lot of this in Ireland, with a lot of distilleries now. Clonakilty is one, Waterford another, that are really starting to pull back some heritage varieties that had disappeared for a long time. So this is advantage to us, the drinker, and they're still keeping the bottle at an affordable price. Nice, 12-year, same price as maybe a little bit more expensive than, say, a Lafroig or something like this. This is not a smoky whiskey, though. Probably a bad comparison from that standpoint, because they pride themselves on not being a peated whiskey. So if you're one of those people that says, I do not like Scotch whiskey because I don't like a smoky whiskey, this is your proof that this is not a smoky whiskey. Now, when I do a nosing on this, which I am about to do, there is a toasted element in there that probably comes from the bourbon barrel. And so it has what I would call a smoky character, but I don't want to make you go, oh, well, all that's just BS now about this not being smoky. Well, it's one of the reasons why smoky is a really hard word to use, because if you associate it with peat, then, and we talked about this with James Doherty the other day, the Sleeve League Distillery, or our draw, he says he uses the term smoky. The hard part about using smoky for me is that there are two types of smoky. There's the peat smoke or turf smoke, and that can be a medicinal smoke, that can be an earthy smoke, or the smoke that comes from just the smell of smoke, that like that burning leaves kind of a smell, or something that is kind of a toasted smell coming from the oak. That is what I'm getting out of this whiskey, and it's very soft and very, very minute, but my nose definitely picks up on that. Lot of fruit forward on this, orchard fruits. As I understand it, they use first fill sherry barrels for this. Not sure if it's PX or Oloroso. I'm going to say maybe PX because I'm not getting a lot of dark fruits out of this. And then it has a first fill ex-bourbon barrel that they are aging in. So along with, say, a pear apple note, I'm getting a toffee note that comes in there. There's a citrus, it's a muscly citrus smell. I would say something, I have to learn and identify my types of oranges a little bit more, because it's a darker, richer kind of a orange type of scent. Maybe I'm thinking mandarin. What is it? Mandarin orange? Is it tangerine? I don't know. I need to see. This is where whiskey challenges me to go back and learn a lot more about food. So mandarin orange. Yes. Okay, so I also get a little toasted almond in there. I think that toasted note is a little nutty character that comes in. And just for a little history element, the distillery was originally known as the Burnfoot Distillery. It started in 1833, and it actually was misspelled initially in the records. When they put it into the records, it was Glen, G-U-I-N, and then right near the beginning of the 20th century, they switched it to G-O-Y-N-E. Cheers. Immediately get pear, honey, grain, hazelnut. There's a little cocoa coming in. Ginger, kind of like a gingerbread flavor. Wow. I mean, there's a lot going on in this whiskey. Wow. Even a little coffee note coming in there as well. I'm checking my notes to see, because I know there was some lemon and definitely hazelnut were the other things that I really picked up. And the vanilla is there as well. It's one of those where I started writing notes down and I'm like, how many things am I going to list here? Because there are a lot of different flavors coming through on the finish. The finish on this is really impressive. The nose on this is also very interesting. And actually, I think I pick up a little bit more of the hazelnut on the nose as well. Hazelnut's not one of my favorite flavors. Thank you, coffee creamer. I overdid it and really got sick of that flavor after a while. But it's nice. It's just kind of gentle in there. And if I don't think about it being hazelnut, it just kind of flows in with all the other flavors that are in there. Yeah, really, really nice whiskey. This is going to probably, I mean, I see the lowland elements in it. It just feels a little more muscly to me than I'm used to with a lowland whiskey. So I think Highland is appropriate for this. And I think that slow distillation, helps improve that nutty character and helps with the body. They do chill filter this, as I understand it. There's no colorant added to it, but it is, from what I've heard, chill filtered. So that's probably stripping out some of the oils that might make this even more of a really nice mouthfeel, because it does have a nice mouthfeel already. But imagine what it could be had they not stripped some of those oils out of there. But very impressed with this glass. Glad that I bought it. Actually, when I did the tour there, I think I tasted the 10, the 12, and the 18, and then they let me sample the 21, and I liked all of them. I think 12 was the best way for me to go, really, because I think this adds in that extra nutty character that is making this really, really an interesting whiskey. So hope you guys enjoyed this. Have you had Glengoyne before? What do you think? Have you tried the 12? $60. I mean, that's pretty darn good price for a whiskey like this. It has sherry casks used, from what I understand, but it doesn't have a lot of sherry influence to it, to me. That doesn't really knock out a lot of the flavors that I would expect. It is much more the distillate, I think, even at 12 years. So I'm imagining the 10 years pretty bright. Leave me a like if you enjoyed the video, and leave your comments below. And until next time, cheers and Slainte. Really nice, pleasant drinking whiskey. Oh, coffee, kind of a mocha almost coming in there. Coffee and cocoa, really, really, really nice. This is going to be a Christmas time dram for me. I can tell already.